not the best officiated game, but I would like to see the replacement or these real officials, call the best games in the playoffs and when the season is tight.
Yeah, it's a situation. I understand that these referees are also getting back into it. It's almost like last year with the NFL players coming in with no OTAs and no training camp. It's almost the same situation that they're still adjusting to the game. But these are calls. It's one thing to miss a call after being gone for a little bit, but to make a false call, I think, is something. When in doubt, it's football. Let them play. That would be my philosophy. If I can't fully depict what's pass interference, what's not, I'm not going to call it. In a situation where the offensive player caught the ball, and I think what it was, the safety falling down, which, that just seems like something, you watch the play. The main one I'm talking about is the, 30-plus yard gain to Antonio Gates to pull them out of that down and distance slump that they were having. He barely put an arm on the safety's shoulder, and, he got tangled up in his own feet and fell down. It's a situation where I don't know why you call that pass interference on the offense. Pushing off to me is, two hands on the defender, pushing, to create space, jumping up and catching the ball. It's not blatantly obvious. I don't call that kind of play. So really, it's just a situation. I realize these refs are still getting their bearings back, with their job, but it's something that I really hope gets resolved quickly.
Absolutely. In the next few weeks, certainly I see better officiating. Now, you'd love to see these officials to get the right calls like they did last year in November, December, and January, and, of course, the big game in February. But right now, for the Chargers, certainly one of those games you got to move on. Phillip Rivers, in the post-game press conference, he's ready for next week. I love to see that in a warrior after that kind of a game. You mentioned Phil, driving the length of the field multiple times. I also want to mention the Chargers got a 20-plus yard play to Malcolm Floyd the very next play that was called back on a holding penalty. And after a questionable offensive pass interference on Gates, you would certainly, the last thing you'd expect is another penalty, to go against that team on a very questionable, holding call. But for right now, obviously, New Orleans in good hands. Despite all that, Drew Brees did come back in that game, and he did rally the troops in the third and fourth quarter, and he got the win. And believe it or not, the Chargers did not get it done. The Saints did, and I want to give my game ball out to Drew Brees. Now, he's the favorite in this week to win the game ball because, right now, he broke the record. He's the guy that is, even though Tom Brady is behind him with only 11 less touchdown pass games than Drew Brees has, and he's certainly on his tail. And it'd be interesting to see how much farther this record goes outside of 48 touchdown passes, and certainly it'll be a topic in the media once he's done throwing those touchdown passes, done with the consecutive streak. But Drew Brees in this game, 4 TDs to 1 interception. He had a monster game. And on 29 of 45 passes, breaking the record, 370 yards, the favorite to win my game ball. Obviously, a tremendous performance. And it'll be interesting to see, Phil, who you have for your game ball.
Well, it's definitely easy to go with, Drew Brees with the situation that happened. But I'm going to go a little differently. Obviously, someone, definitely honorable mention. I think it's another guy that you can easily throw up there was Reggie Wayne in his 13-catch, 212-yard performance. But just to go a little bit differently, I'm going to go with Tony Gonzalez. I don't know how many people caught his performance in this game. He had 13 catches, 123 yards, and a red zone touchdown. Tony Gonzalez, one of the best to ever play the game. Not a lot of tight ends end up in Canton. It's just a situation, regardless of the playing style, tight ends, obviously now more than ever, are getting involved in the offense. And here's a guy who will definitely be in the Hall of Fame when it's all said and done. And, to add to that resume, I'm going to give him my game ball for today.
Absolutely. With, Tony Gonzalez, a lock for the Hall of Fame. Same I would like to say with Antonio Gates. I want to fit that in there. Right now, the key in the NFL more and more is with the tight end position, and Tony Gonzalez, one of the best in the NFL. Now, I would like to give the play of the game kind of ball. Now, we probably won't do that every week. But Reggie Wayne with perhaps the catch of the year. What a tremendous grab along the sideline to keep the Colts drive alive, that Andrew Luck capped off, and the Colts won that game. Real quick, let's take you back to the Monday Nighter between the Houston Texans and New York Jets. Our last Monday night score update What do you have for us, Phil?
Well, the Jets are actually in the red zone right now. It's 3rd and goal. The score is as it was last time we checked in here. It was 23-14. 3rd and goal here with Sanchez dropping back as I speak, and he's looking for someone, and he goes deep, and it goes incomplete. So it's 4th and goal. It'd be interesting to see if the Jets go for it here. There's about 12 minutes left in the game here, and I'd imagine they would kick a field goal because that would have been a one-score game. So at the moment, though, 4th and goal, and we still have the Texans up 23-14.
All right, we'll send you right back to that game in just a minute. We'll go through the scores in week number 5, just a few of them before we go back to that game. The Rams, we didn't get to them on this show, but the Cardinals are no longer unbeaten, and the Falcons and Texans are the undefeated teams. Now we'll have to wait and see this Monday night game. But right now, the Houston Texans and Atlanta Falcons are the elite of the NFL. And Phil, on that 4th down, I believe that they'll go back to the field goal or try and get a playoff. What do you have over there?
Yeah, Nick Folk just converted a field goal. So the score, as we close the show out here with 12 minutes left in the game, you have the Texans leading by a slim margin of 6 points, 23-17.
And that will lead us to the roundout of the scores here, and obviously the rest of the game you can catch on ESPN. And obviously the Houston Texans have a run for their money against the New York Jets at 500 on the year. The Miami Dolphins, not very many teams picked them to win this game over the Bengals. Certainly Cincinnati has troubles on tap over there in the AFC North. Now, how do the Bengals do, and do they get a wild card positioning? Certainly took a big step back with a loss against an inferior Dolphins team. Colts win big by 3 points over the Packers. Same story over there in Kansas City. The Ravens upset the Chiefs. That was a big-time win there for the Ravens. 9-6 your final. Giants over the Browns and up in big-time fashion. Steelers a 2-point win. The Falcons with a 7-point win, and the Seahawks with a 4-point win over their opponents. Bears win big, 41-3. Vikings over the Titans, 30-7. Patriots in a 10-point win over Manning. Brady gets another big-time win against its arch rival, Peyton Manning. That should be perhaps a team in the playoffs, both those guys, that perhaps might go at it again. We'll have to wait and see. Certainly a topic for discussion. 49ers win big, 45-3. Saints in a controversial game over the Chargers, 31-24 to win their first game of the year. And obviously the Texans, 6-point lead over the Jets with 11 minutes remaining in the game. Phil, any lasting thoughts on Week 5 as we come to a close here on NFL Goal Line?
Well, it just seems that we're going to have a lot more, situations to bring up next week. As Cameron was saying, win or lose, the situation of Tim Tebow starting for the Jets is a very realistic one. So it'll be interesting if this time next week we're talking about Tebow, and perhaps more interesting than that, depending on how this game goes, we could have one undefeated team left in the NFL. That'll be very interesting to see how that goes.
And right now for the Houston Texans, I see them as the most dominant team in the NFL. And obviously the Monday nighter between the Jets and the Texans have yet to be decided. And if they do, in fact, lose that game, I still see them as the elite in the AFC. We'll have to wait and see in that big-time Monday nighter. Just running down the quick headlines as we go to the last minute of our show. Let's just face it. The Redskins have such a big issue. And, right now, Mike Shanahan says RG3 is good and ready for next week. But real quick, Phil, do you see Robert Griffin playing next week? Or do they go to a guy he went to a Super Bowl over in Chicago and Rex Grossman? Or do they go, with Kirk Cousins at quarterback?
I think if RG3 can't go, I got to go with Kirk Cousins because you know what you're going to get, with Rex Grossman. And frankly, it's not a lot. The ceiling's definitely higher with Kirk Cousins. Here's a guy they took in the same draft as RG3. He had some good moments in that game. He had a few negative ones too. But to answer the question quickly, I'd go with Cousins if RG3 can't go.
That is it for the NFL Goal Line. We'll have to wait and see how the Redskins take control of their situation. Nick Rice and Phil Nunziata on another week of NFL football as the NFL Goal Line rolls on with yet another week. Thank you guys for listening to this presentation on Spreaker.com. Our call-in number for next week, 951-515-4552. We look for everyone to get on the show. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.